So it is October 23rd. Um, it's been a month since I gave birth. um, so I was actually 38 weeks when I gave birth. I had a video started, birth story. So I stopped recording it with the intention of finishing it later that day or the next day or something, and then I never actually got around to it. So I've just been putting it off, and now that it's a whole month, I figured I should make a video because I'm starting to forget like a lot of the details. Um, so here's the story. So on the 22nd of September, I had woken up at 4:30 in the morning, or at 4, somewhere around there, which wasn't unusual because a couple days before that I had been waking up kind of early for no reason. So one of the things that they say that could induce labor is having sex. And that morning I had sex with my husband. So that happened when I woke up around 4:30. Then I got hungry, because at that point I had just been getting hungry a lot more frequently. So I got hungry. I got up around 5, maybe 5:30. I think I 5:30. And then at 6 was when I started feeling my first contractions. Maybe it was a little bit before 6. But I started feeling cramps, which I had been feeling probably a week before. I thought I was going into labor a week before because I had kind of intense cramps, but they were just like a constant cramp rather than contracting cramps. So at first I thought it was just that, and then I started paying attention to them because I was getting work, but I was having them like every 8-10 minutes. So after like 3 or 4 of them, I realized, oh, these are actually a couple minutes apart, and they come and go starting at the back. So I looked it up just to be sure. I didn't want to believe that I was actually in labor because I didn't want to be in labor. I was trying to hold off till a week later because my OB was having surgery that week and she was going to be out for the entire week. And but I had been seeing the midwife at that office for the past month because my OB had been so busy. So we had talked to my OB probably 4 days before this, and I had asked her if I had gone into labor before my OB was back working. Hold on. If I had gone into labor that week that my OB was going to be out, that it was possible for me to request the midwife. I started having contractions at 6. I started actually timing them at like 6:30, because they were coming every 7 to 10 minutes. So around, I think my first one that I tracked was at 6:34. My husband was still asleep. Around 7:30, I woke him up and I told him that I was having contractions. And at that point, they were getting closer to 5 to 8 minutes apart. And from the beginning, they were all around 48 seconds, averaging 48 seconds long. Ugh, okay, my arm's gonna get tired. Trying to remember where I left off. What happened? So I started packing a bag because I hadn't done it. I was gonna do it that week, or I was supposed to do it 2 weeks before that, but then I was like, oh, just do it at 38 weeks. So I packed the bag really quick, and while I was packing, because I was walking back and forth a lot, I realized that anytime I would get a contraction, it would feel less painful if I was walking around, or more bearable if I was walking around rather than me laying down or sitting down. My contractions were still closer to 5 minutes. They were still 48, 53 seconds apart. So I decided to put off going to the hospital. So around 10, I think, I had to go to the bathroom. And I felt like right before that, and it was probably about 40 minutes around that time that I went to the restroom, starting a little bit before and after I went to the restroom. I didn't have like contractions. I had a couple of cramps, but I didn't count those as contractions because they didn't feel the same. And then I was on the four-wheeler because I had to go get something. Um, and I was probably on there like 3 minutes, and I had two contractions back to back. They were kind of painful. Um, and I was trying to get to my husband so that we can get going already. Um, and so I put off, once I got to my husband, I put off going to the doctor, going to the hospital another 30 minutes because the only reason why I felt the urgency to go was because everybody always talks about going to the hospital or start heading to the hospital when your contractions are 5 minutes apart, um, lasting for 1 minute, for an hour, which mine had been around that time frame for like 5 hours already. Um, so that was my only urgency to go, but I myself didn't feel like I needed to go. Hospital is 30 30 minutes away from here. I didn't want to be sitting in a car sitting for 30 minutes because I knew I was going to be in pain. Um so anyways, I decided, okay, let's go already. Um because the contractions were getting a little bit stronger, it was starting to scare me a little bit. Um just because they were getting stronger and I didn't want to end up being on the way to the hospital and like having to deliver the baby in the car because that would just completely suck. Um, so we loaded up the truck and we put the car seat in, um, and we got to the hospital. Well, we were on the way to the hospital, and I started realizing my contractions were getting, one, stronger. I knew that was gonna happen, and two, a lot closer together. So I started timing them probably 15 minutes, well, 10 minutes into leaving the house. So we were like 20 minutes away still. My contractions were 2 to 3 minutes apart and they were still around 48 seconds. So I was getting really scared at this point because they were only 2 to 3 minutes apart. And I was like, oh my God, as soon as I get to the hospital, I'm going to be having this baby. I do not want this to be happening. Plus, I also wanted to go eat something just in case. I was still gonna have to be there for a couple of hours before I actually had the baby. Because my contractions were like 2 to 3 minutes apart, I was just like, okay, let's just go straight to the hospital. Um, I'll just be hungry the rest of the day, whatever. We got to the hospital. My husband offered me a wheelchair, but I prefer to be standing, and walking feels better to just be at that point. I mean, just it feels better to just be standing up rather than sitting down. So we got to the delivery floor, and I got checked in. I got put into a room. They put me on the monitors. I checked into the hospital. I was 4 centimeters. I walked around for an hour. Um, and they said after that hour, they checked me again and I was 5 centimeters. So they um, admitted me and they like took me up and everything. They set everything up. They moved me into a bigger room that I was actually going to be delivering in. The on-call doctor came in, and the nurses told him that I was requesting the midwife. And luckily, she was in the hospital that day, because she had one of her actual patients was delivering also that day. And so she was on the floor already. So she came in and saw me. We talked for a little bit. I wasn't hooked up anymore. They had me on the um, portable monitor, which I have a picture. Um, and then I was starving at this point because I had only ate breakfast, which was leftover pasta from the from the night before, and um, that was at like 5 in the morning. Um, so the only things that I was able to eat was Jello, ice chips, and popsicles. So I had a couple of popsicles and a couple of Jello cups. Um, and then so the midwife said that she was going to come back and check on me. I think I got checked in. So I got to the hospital at 12. I got checked in. I got admitted around 1. And then I saw the midwife around 2. And then she said that she was going to be back around 4:30 to check me again. And I didn't see her again until close to 6 p.m. I think it was close to 6, or maybe it was close to 5:30. Turns out her other patient went into labor. So she was over there. And when she came back and checked me, I think I was 6 centimeters. And I think at this point, I was having contractions that would make me tear up. And sometimes I would actually like start crying because every now and then I'd have a really strong one. When I got to 7 centimeters, I think, so I had a lot of back labor. She just wasn't positioned properly, and a lot of my pain was in my lower back. So I was telling her that, and they did the spinning babies thing. Pretty much they have you lay on your side at the edge of the bed, and you have the leg that's on top. You let it hang off the bed, and then you have whoever's helping you like hold the rest of your body so that you don't actually like fall off the bed. And that's supposed to give room for the baby to turn whatever way they have to in order to come out. Also, it was supposed to help my back labor. So you have to stay in that position for 3 contractions. After 3 contractions, they spin you over to the other side, or they turn you over to the other side, and you have to do that for another 3 contractions. Ugh, it was horrible. I just wanted it to be over already. So after that, my contractions were a little bit better. I wasn't having so much back pain. And then probably for about an hour. And because my back labor came back, my midwife asked me if I wanted to go into the shower and just let the hot water run on my back because that'll help. So I said, yeah. I got in the shower. In the tub, there's not a lot of room. It's a small tub. So it was kind of hard for me to swing my hips because I couldn't get my legs far apart enough for me to like comfortably swing my hips. So I ended up getting on my hands and knees, and that kind of helped a little bit. And then at this point when they put me in the shower, and because they put a chair also in there for me to hold on to, but at this point I was having so much back pain that I couldn't really bend over anyway because it just hurt to bend over, period. So there was also that. She's asleep. And I got tired of being in the shower, so I got out. I don't really remember what happened exactly, but I remember I had them check my cervix again just to see how far dilated I was. I'm not entirely sure. Like, it's really fuzzy at this point, and it's been a month since I gave birth. So when I got out of the shower, I got back on the bed because I was having so much back pain. They told me about sterile water injections, which is it's just like a kind of just like pain medication, sort of, or it's like a way to manage your back pain. So it's 4 injections that they put in your lower back, and they do 2 at a time on each side. So I told them, okay, let's try that to see if it helps my back. I regret those injections so much because I didn't know that they were going to do 2 at a time. They had just said that it was 4 injections, but I don't know. I don't know if they explained it to me properly or if I just wasn't paying attention. So when they put them in, oh my gosh, that burned so much. I screamed so much because it burned my back. And I still had 2 more to do, but I guess I said no more because it just burned so much. So I only got the 2. It helped for maybe 3 contractions, and then the pain came back in my back. My water had not broke at this point, so they had been asking me for a couple of hours if I wanted them to break my water, because that would just make things progress a lot quicker, or it should make things progress a lot quicker. But I had said no because I wanted it to be a lot closer so that once they broke my water, it would just be a lot quicker. So I don't remember if they broke my water and then I got the injections, or if I got the injections and then they broke my water. But based on the amount of pain that I remember that I was in right before they gave me the injections, I think they broke my water first. So they broke my water. It was a weird feeling. It was a lot of like really hot water that I felt come out of me. And it was extremely uncomfortable when it came out, and immediately after it had like finished initially gushing out, immediately it was pain, just horrible pain. And then I think that was why they gave me the sterile injections. And then after that, because the injections were so painful and they didn't really help because I didn't have all 4, I started telling my husband that I wanted the epidural, and I just wanted the epidural because I was in so much pain. My midwife said that if I was sure that I wanted the epidural, because it was going to be hard for them to give me the epidural since I was in so much pain and I couldn't hold still for very long, and I was going to have to hold still long enough for them to give me the epidural. I said yes, I was going to be able to hold still long enough for them to give me the epidural if it was going to make my pain go away. So they checked my cervix again. Just to know where I was at. Just to see also if they had enough time to get an anesthesiologist into the room to give me the epidural. And I think when they broke my water, I was 8 centimeters. After they gave me the injections, I was 9 centimeters. Or maybe after I requested the epidural, I was 9 centimeters. So when they were about to so I was also having the laughing gas right before the injections, because it was gonna help manage the pain a little bit better, but I just felt like I was suffocating having that mask on. I felt like I couldn't breathe properly. Told them I didn't want that anymore. They gave me the injection, and that didn't help me either because I couldn't deal with the pain of that either. So I think when they were going to call an anesthesiologist to come in, I think they checked me and they were like, oh, we can't get him in here because that I was really close and it was basically too late, which I figured, but I just wanted to see if I could get the epidural. So I got up because the contractions were just awful and I had to be walking around. I just wanted to be walking around. So I got up and I was walking around. I had a couple contractions, and then I don't remember what. Oh, I think my midwife wanted me to stand in a certain position to see if it helped my back labor, and it was something about putting my leg up on a step stool. And I think I walked away, and I was telling her that I couldn't. I walked away, and as soon as I turned around, I got a contraction, and I was telling her, I need to push. I feel like I need to push. And they got me in the bed really quick, and they got my legs up for me to push, and It was, I don't even know how long I was pushing. Maybe it was for like 40 minutes, but maybe it was longer than that. I Oh my gosh, I did not want to push because it was so painful, but obviously I had to push. It's not like I couldn't push. So I don't know how long I was pushing, and I it's weird giving birth. It it just feels like you need to poop, because it's just a lot of pressure and it feels like the baby's coming out of your butt. Um um so I didn't want to push, and I was also scared of tearing. Um I remember at one point I was pushing and I like her head was right there, and they told me to keep pushing, but then my contraction ended and I couldn't keep pushing. So then my contraction came, they told me to push, and I don't think I got her all out at that on that contraction, but then my next contraction came immediately afterwards. So then I got her out, so she wasn't crowning for a very long time. Um so after that, I thought it was over once her head came out. I forgot her shoulders still had to come out. So then it was so much more painful pushing her shoulders out. And when she came out, it was like she came out and a bunch of like fluids just came out and you could just feel it coming out. So they put her on my chest immediately. And it was just before I had her, I kind of felt like I was gonna be one of the people that wasn't immediately in love with their baby. Obviously, I loved her, but I wasn't in love with my baby. I think part of it was because I was in so much pain and didn't, I don't know, in a way care that I had her. Because they kept telling me to look at my baby, because I guess it helps manage the pain afterwards. But for me, it was a little bit different just because I wasn't immediately in love with her until maybe an hour after I gave birth. After when they moved me into the recovery room, that was when I was actually like, okay, like I love her. But I thought I had tore up. I thought I was messed up down there because the midwife was having trouble stitching up the two places that I tore, because they were kind of like in hard places for her to stitch me easily, based on what she said. But she said that I only tore in two places and it was just first degree tears. So that's pretty much the birth story. I feel like I need to condense it, but every time I record this, because I recorded it like 3 times already, every time I record this, it is pretty much this long. I'll cut out a couple of things though, but it's this long. Anyways, now I have a beautiful baby girl, and she's sleeping right here. I have her kind of propped up so she looks funny. The only thing I forgot to mention was that, like, the afterbirth, where they pull out the placenta, it's really weird. Birth is just a really weird thing to describe, because it's kind of like, it's very, because it's kind of like very, I don't know, weird feeling and sensation that you just like never experience in any other situation. But yeah, that's the story. So I'm finishing it here. I'll insert some pictures of her um, when she was born and everything.